moving around. Hadn't made it back to the house yet. But I wanted to come. Didn't want to miss 6 o'clock because I know I got a lot of folks out there listening and looking, and I really appreciate all of your support. I appreciate you subscribing to my YouTube channel, following me on Facebook, and getting with me on LinkedIn and even on Twitter. I'm really getting, I mentioned this last week, I'm getting better at Twitter, but I don't understand all the jargon. I had some people saying stuff back at me on Twitter, and I wasn't sure if they were being complimentary or if they were being critical. So I quit the conversation. Didn't want to mess up. But anyway, I really appreciate all of your support and your encouragement. Thank you so much for being part of this. And I do consider all of you that log in and that stay connected with me to be part of everything that we're doing and everything that I am trying to do, to just share with you, share a little bit of, me personally, share a little bit of my opinion about things, share little bit of information that I might have. I want to make sure that if I know something, that you certainly are welcome to know it. And if I think something, I'm certainly not shy about sharing my feelings and telling you how I think and how I feel about issues and about things that are happening in our community and in our country. So thank you again for being part of this and part of me. I would be remiss if I did not start today by wishing my lovely wife, Marquita, a happy birthday. Happy birthday, darling. I love you. This is her birthday. I will say that she is 21 plus. I'll make sure that you know she is 21 plus. But anyway, birthdays are something that we all ought to marvel in. We ought to celebrate. We ought to recognize. James, how you doing? Benny, Bernetta, how y'all doing today? Benny Waters, Bernetta White, Finley, James Matthews. Hey, glad to see you out there. But anyway, happy birthday, Marquita. And many, many, many happy returns. Hey, Tamika, how you doing? Hey, what's up, Marcus? How you doing today? So a couple of things, sort of a repeat from last week. As you know, this will be obviously the last in the black for 2020. What a year! What a year! What a year this has been. A lot of folks have said that this was the worst year ever, and honestly speaking, you won't get a lot of argument out of me about 2020. But 2020 is coming to an end. It doesn't mean that our diligence and our vigilance, it doesn't mean that our being cautious and careful is something that we can brush aside. If you're paying attention to the news, then you're seeing that the coronavirus is not really going anywhere. Anthony, what's up, Ant? Um, so coronavirus isn't going anywhere. 340 plus thousand people have died. Uh, I know that there is a vaccine, but it doesn't mean that that is a cure. And really, if you note, the predictions were back in the fall that we'd have a vaccine, and by now, 20 million people would have been vaccinated. Well, as it stands, the last time I listened to the news, 2.6 million people had received the vaccine, and they have to get another shot. So anyway, thanks, Ant. Happy New Year to you too. So really, the point is, let's not let our guards down. Let's not let our guards down now. We may be close, but let's act like we're not. Back in March, February and March, when we first realized how contagious this disease was, we went into sort of a real shutdown mode. We shut down businesses, we shut down school, and I mean, 2020 was something. I remember, when that ship was stuck out off the China coast, I believe, and we wouldn't let it, We wouldn't let the folks off the ship to come to the U.S. and then we started shutting things down, and then all of a sudden the NBA is shut down. And if you're a sports fan, the NBA gets shut down. Now there's no Major League Baseball. And now we cancel the NCAA basketball tournaments. We cancel, college sports. We cancel spring football. We cancel spring sports. And so, we started doing the things that we needed to do to make sure that we protected as many people as we could. But there are a lot of things that we didn't do, and we had political forces and people who were, for their own partisan reasons, not being realistic about what was happening. But we're not out of the woods, and that's the story that I want to send to everybody today, that we're not out of the woods. We've got to act as if this is still a very contagious virus. We've got to acknowledge the fact that we don't have, quote unquote, the cure. We have the vaccine. And we've got to make sure that we know that people are still getting sick. People are still dying as a result of the coronavirus. So treat it like that. Keep this in mind, that there is virtually no way to protect yourself 100% unless you just stay in the house. Unless you just stay in the house and nobody comes in the house, or except the people that live in the house, and you don't go anywhere, well, there's a pretty safe bet you won't get it. But most of us don't have the luxury of just staying in the house. But here's what we can do. We can be extremely careful. What's that mean? Wear a mask. That's number one. Number two, keep your distance from people. I mean, there's nobody's face that you need to be in. And frankly, there's nobody that you can't communicate from 6 feet away from. Wear a mask, keep your distance. And number three, and this is very important, stay away from folks that you know are not adhering to common sense and good sense. In some cases, that could be our kids. That could be people we really like and love. It could be some friends. It could be our boys. But, if somebody else is being irresponsible and they're being irresponsible, then don't you be irresponsible. What's up, Allison? Don't you be irresponsible too. So try to be as safe and secure as you possibly can. Yeah, I know we got to live our lives. I know that there is no way that, unless we do, as I said, stay in the house, lock up, lock down, don't go anywhere, don't do anything, to be 100% sure. But be as sure as you can. I want to see you around next year, this time, 2021, when we're getting ready to celebrate New Year's of 2022. So 2020 was, it was a hell of a year. It's almost out of here. We had so many things that happened, in addition to coronavirus, the racial unrest, this sort of reckoning with the racial and injustice that has happened in America. We got rid of sports. But anyway, for all of you sports fans, I will say, I know we're gearing up to watch the Florida-Oklahoma game. I'm certainly going to be watching that one later on this evening. Big games on Friday. I'm a Tide fan, as you know. Roll Tide. Hey, Debbie, how you doing? So anyway, pulling for Alabama to beat Notre Dame. I don't know. I really didn't think that Ohio State, I shared it with you on this broadcast, I didn't think Ohio State deserved to get into the playoffs. Playoff committee wanted them. They got a big brand. They have a national brand. They won the Big Ten. So I get it. They didn't want to put Texas A&M or Cincinnati in there. Cincinnati's got to play Georgia. I think that's on Saturday. That ought to be interesting to see if, how they would fare if they played in a big time conference like the SEC. Not as well as I think. I doubt they have won. They would have lost some games, maybe even more than one or two, in my opinion. But anyway, big weekend for football. So Marquita asked me, well, what are you going to do Friday? I said, nothing but watch football. She says, are you going to watch football all day? I said, yes, I'm going to watch this TV for a while. I'm going to watch that TV for a while. But Friday is definitely going to be a day for football, New Year's Day. It reminds me of when we were kids, when the bowl games, the Rose Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Sugar Bowl were all on New Year's Day. And so anyway, we get that, almost get all of that again this time. So I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, so as we end, 2020, and get ready for 2021, just a few other things that I want to say before I get out of here and I let you go on and get ready for the game or whatever you want to do. Yes, this is a year that we all want to put behind us. This is a year that we could probably, most of us say, even if you're my age, that it's probably the worst year that we remember for a lot of reasons, many of which I mentioned earlier. But the message I want to send to you is this, and I said this, I want to say it again. If we're not careful, if we're not cautious, if we're not smart, then we don't have to turn the corner. Turning the corner is something that we have to make sure we do. It's not something that just is going to happen automatically if we're foolish. So here's what we need to do. We need to make sure that we do everything possible to not have a repeat of 2020. We need to do everything possible to make sure that we stay safe, that we stay healthy, and that we keep other people safe and other people healthy during 2021. 2020 was a year of political awakening. And it was a year I think that our younger folks have had a better understanding of what their civic duties are and how important it is to vote and how important it is to participate in democracy. 2020 was a time when democracy was challenged. It was challenged from the highest levels of our government, and it's still being challenged when we think about the antics that are going on with folks that we elected and that are in Congress and that we elected to serve us and to serve this country. To think of some of the things that they are doing and saying, then we know that we have work to do as people. It's important that we are aware. It's important that we are involved and engaged to make sure that we don't continue to send people to represent us that basically represent themselves. That we don't send people to represent us that are owned by some other special interest, no matter who they are, and who can't, because of their relationship with big money or big tech or even some foreign government, that they can't represent us. And if anybody, and I dare anyone to say that what's happening in Washington, D.C. as we speak is representative of what we need. William, how you doing? Uh, Nadine, how are you? And Atal, I don't have I don't have my glasses on. I'm getting some. Artavia, how you doing? I finally focused in on that. But if you really think about what's happening there, we are not being well represented. It is not. You could call it a comedy of errors, but it's not funny at all. Playing with the livelihoods of people, debating over $2,000 versus $600 and not doing either. While at the same time, you're looking at food lines. We're not in a war where people are bombing here, and we're not a third world country during a famine. But we got food lines in places like Dallas, in big wealthy cities in the wealthiest country on the planet. We've got food lands, and it's because of the annex of people in Congress. And the other thing is, and I'm going to say this, um, maybe it may be close to the last thing I say. You never know. But when you've got all of this commotion going on, you've got the virus, and you've got the economic shutdown, you've got and you've got a Congress that can't figure out what it's doing and what it should do. You've got all of this stuff going on. And I'll use this as a football analogy since we were talking about football. If you know anything about football, you always protect your blind side. So the blind side in football is if you have a right-handed quarterback, and I know you are a left-handed quarterback, but if you have a right-handed quarterback, then that left side is the blind side. The quarterback's back is to his blind side. He can't see behind him. And so you've always got to protect the blind side. This is something that we haven't been doing very well. And it's evidenced by the fact that we just got hacked. Our entire government got hacked. We got hacked. I mean, we're spinning around and we're arguing about, whether to do this stimulus or whether to give 2,000 or 600. Who won the election? We got a current president that is acting as un-American as anybody has ever acted. Back in the 18th century, when this country was founded, he would have probably been shot as a traitor. Yes, he probably would have already been treated as someone who betrayed this country. And all of this stuff is going on, and we're not watching our blind side, and we get hacked. Well, let me tell you the danger in getting hacked. We may not know exactly what was found out about us, what was learned, uh, what information someone else, another country, another, another, uh, another enemy, you know, a competitor. Like, oh man, you were right-handed. My bad. Thought you were left-handed. We may not really know what they know, and so we have got that to contend with, and that is frightening. And it's frightening more so because we've got people in our government, people elected and people who are working in government, and to where we don't really know whose side they're on. Based on their actions, they're not on the side of the American people. And so, who's paying them? Who owns them? Who are they compromised by? Who are they complicit with? These are the things that kind of keep me up at night and have me worried about the future of this country. I used this word kleptocracy before on some of my broadcasts, and we've explained that uh, kleptocracies are these forms of governments where basically the folks the folks in power have sort of this right to do anything that they have to do to stay in power, and they skim and take and basically milk the system for the resources so that they benefit personally from their elected positions. Based on some of the rhetoric that I hear coming from our folks in government, it's not far fetched. I mean, it's not something that we can say, oh, that's crazy talk, Bob. No, it's not. We are looking more and more like a kleptocracy where the rich folks are running the show, where people who are already wealthy are getting more wealthy. We've created more billionaires than over the last 20 years than anywhere else. And legislators, Darnell, are legislating for the powerful at the expense of the rest of us. Legislators are legislating for the wealthy at the expense of the rest of us. And nobody is looking out for the average man. Well, I consider myself an average man. I think that most of the people who would listen to me are going to fit in that same category. I just wish we could reach more of the folks that are in the boat that we're in, so that we could all start rowing that boat the same way. Hey, listen, have a very happy new year, a happy New Year's Day, as well as a happy, prosperous, safe, and healthy 2021. This is Bob Dickerson within the Black. I'll see you again next week.